right, welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're really excited today. We have Andrea Groves on as our guest. Andrea is a grateful steward of the great work and is a conduit through whom flows universal light, love, healing energy. She is a proud Pachakuti Mesa carrier, a shamanic ceremonialist, and a Reiki master teacher, offering a unique healing experience with the assistance of her profound relationship with spirit and the unseen allies. Andrea facilitates master classes on crystal healing and creating beautiful wire-wrapped crystal medicine pieces. She is a respected guide within her community, bringing awareness to those seeking their inner light. Andrea is the fiercely independent mother of three grown beautiful beings, Lucas, Sierra, and Kennedy. She lives with her youngest daughter and her cat DJ, who no doubt believes he is the catalyst of Andrea's great spiritual awakening. Andrea offers distance healing work in addition to her in-person classes and apprenticeships. She resides in Western New York. So welcome, Andrea. We're happy to have you on the podcast today.
You sure.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
hopefully I didn't
ladies.
get
I appreciate it.
Pachakuti was like,
You did really well. It is Pachakuti Mesa. It's the Pachakuti Mesa tradition. The shaman branch that I am a part of. So yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And so what does that entail then?
So the Pachakuti Mesa is, if you think of any altar space that you may have in your home, those of us who have a reverence or some sort of spiritual, maybe ceremony and ritual in our lives. It's basically our medicine pieces, our power pieces. What the Pachakuti Mesa does is it reflects who you are as an individual, as created through the cosmos, because we are this tiny little speck on this, in this great big, we don't even know how big, and we sort of forget that sometimes. And the creation of the mesa is literally that. It's the embodiment of who we are, but also it puts into alignment the celestial beings and the celestial stardust that we're actually made from. And it kind of is a blueprint to opening up your senses and sensibilities to the fact that there are so many allies out there, unseen spiritual allies that we can tap into. And so I find myself falling in love with the Pachakuti Mesa tradition every time I sit at my mesa and am able to raise the vibration and help the planet in healing, which is really help the planet in healing, and in turn that turns into healing for humanity, because we need to, we need all of us to open up to the sight that we are connected. We're not separate. And the more connected we feel, the more love we can pass along to one another, and then really do some great work with healing our planet.
I love that. Yeah. And we do need that right now. Well, we've needed it for a long time, but I feel like the world's in such a chaotic space. As much as there's a lot of peace, there's a lot of chaos, and we really need that healing out there going to our world. So how did you start on this path, your spiritual journey?
So yeah, it's funny. It's, it started around 2010. I was a very sort of broken soul. I didn't know it at the time. I had 3 young children at the time, was in a dysfunctional marriage, didn't know which way to go, had very little self-esteem, felt like life was kind of just, ramrodding over me. And I didn't have a lot of hope. I didn't have a lot of natural fire and verve. And through some machinations that happened kind of like all at once, I realized that I do have the spirit world. That wasn't my destiny. I wasn't meant to be a sad housewife raising children, even though that is one of my greatest achievements. It wasn't meant to be the only thing that I was known for. So I actually had an earth angel experience where a person that, crossed my path very briefly, um, although albeit several times, but very briefly came across my path. And through seeing through this person's eyes, uh, reflected back to me the love that I was. So if you imagine looking into somebody's eyes and seeing yourself love reflected in that person, it almost was like a match was lit, and it was like suddenly I expanded into something and completely wholly new, and I realized that I was meant to um, grow and to be on a different path. So that was the very beginning of that. Now, that being said, this has been years in the making. I've been on a healing journey path since 2010. Um, it started then with actually doing some physical work for me. I started uh, running, of all things. I started distance running, and I feel like it was more of a running away from. I needed to kind of get away from the situation, the home situation, because I didn't yet have the tools to address that, how to fix that. So the running but there was so much spirituality attached to the running. I would hit a certain spot and I would have like these downloads of creative energy, creativeness that just kind of flowed through me. It came in the forms of poems. It came in the forms of seeing the beauty all around me. And I kind of became a little addicted to that. And I don't use that term lightly, although I do use it with a little tongue in cheek. And so I believe that that was the way that, the spirit world was keeping me connected to the spirit aspect, even though I really hadn't had much experience with the spiritual world. So I started doing the running, and I did some long distance runs. I ran 4 or 5 half marathons, and then in 2013 I ran a full marathon. And
Nice.
I
Congratulations.
thank you. It was the following year that I some other big things happened. I found Reiki healing energy. I'm not sure if you ladies are familiar with the Reiki healing, but that was offered to me out of the blue in 2014. That was also the year that I had the strength to the term I'm using now, fully healed from it, is that's the year that I was able to bust up my marriage and really start the healing process. So 2014 was a very big catalyst year for me. I dove right into the Reiki healing, and like it was like a homecoming. It was like Reiki found me again. I feel like in another past life I probably had this energy. So I took 6 months to get my Reiki master level training, and now I had this. My kids are still I still have teenagers, and we're dealing with I had my oldest son graduated high school in 2014. My two younger were one was middle school age, and my other was a junior. So like I really understood, and it um knew that I needed to be there for my children at this particular time. Like, yes, I was coming out of a bad narcissistic relationship, but my goal was to also be able to help my children heal. And they were a lot of there was a lot of asking the questions, will my children be okay through this, will they? And every time I got the answer back was yes. So when I got that answer back yes, then it was moving forward. No matter how difficult whatever we were physically going through, or whatever the miasma of that chaos time of ending relationships. So I still had some difficult times ahead of me, even though Reiki seemed like such a beautiful addition to what I was doing. Through the Reiki healing, I couldn't consume enough information on healing modalities. I was like, give me this book. I need this book. What's this next thing? Uh, so through that, I found crystals, and I was really drawn to raw natural crystals. Um, my first few introductions to crystals was, nice, smooth, polished, pretty, and it was really cool. And I loved the energy. I loved hearing about the different healing properties, and I was just really enamored with that. But then somehow it came about that the natural crystals came into my awareness, and I felt like, just like I knew, without a doubt, that was an arena that I needed to really step into. So as my kids are still going through school, I'm working in, the 9 to 5 world in a very, dense energy sort of profession. I was an insurance sales and working in insurance sales and customer service. Um, but I was able to take what I was learning and take that and have that be an outside source of bring me joy and wonder. So I actually did I create crystal healing medicine pieces. I created a line of uh, uh, healing properties cards for people who are brand new into the whole situation they can take a crystal home with them, but they also have the card to kind of go back to. That was always my biggest thing. I would walk away from feeling all this wonderful joy and juju, and I didn't understand. But now I'm home, and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this stuff. I don't remember half of this stuff. So that was a few years in the making, and that took up a lot of time. But I learned so much about myself and the fact that I could move forward with that, not only in the healing modality, but also from a business sense. I'm still, at this point, I'm still trying to work through some self-esteem issues and not sure, and that just very some very dark things. I actually had an incident in 2015. I had a DWI, unfortunately, and that was also like divinely in there was divine intervention during that period of my life. I was struggling with just, how am I going to do this, make ends meet, trying to, run a household, run the home, and all of these things. And I thought I was protecting my children, but I was not still protecting myself and doing the things that were good for myself. And so I can honestly say, um, I made very bad decisions. One evening in particular, and decided to get behind the wheel when I never should have. But that being said, when it came down to it, the the incident that happened was I was really ready to just give it all up. I will, not to be too macabre or anything, but I was ready to give it all up. And I remember thinking those words in my head. And as soon as those words came into my my mind thought, um, I saw flashing red and blue lights in my rearview mirror. And I immediately, I completely became lucid. I completely became aware of what was happening. And I slowed down and I let the process happen. And from what I understand from other folks that have this, situation happen, it can be, a terribly degrading and as it's not a wonderful situation. But honestly, the officer that was on the scene was extremely respectful. He listened, he heard me. I do believe that he was an earth angel sent to make sure that I did not do any harm, first of all, to someone else, and second of all, to myself. So I offer him gratitude and respect. And And also for the incident, it was one of the most difficult things I've ever gone through. It was a year and a half process of really coming to terms with who I am as a person and who I wanted to be, show my children going forward. So it I can't say I would. I absolutely don't ever want to go through a situation like that again. But I can look back and understand what I needed to learn and why from that process. So, um, not too long after that, um, I met a woman. Her name is Barbara. She's literally, I think, was also another earth angel sent to me to be sort of a motherly, sisterly figure. And she's the one that first introduced any sort of shamanic traditions to me. And I was so just really in awe of her work and her healing abilities that I found myself becoming quite her follower. So through her, I was able to do. I received the Moon Aiki rites, which are a Peruvian shamanic rites. They're 9 rites, and basically um, through these rites they're instilled into you, to your energetic body, and these rites help you to grow your luminous light being. So they help you ascend to that most luminous being that we are really striving and to be in our natural state. So that I believe I got those Moon Aiki rights probably in 16 or 17. And I just found myself, that's when I learned to do some shamanic journeying, do some meditations, and I was just like, wow, there's all of these beautiful creatures available to us, and spirit allies in the form of different animals or plants or whatnot. And I found myself again falling deeply in love with this process. And I one of the things that's really interesting with me, and I recently become aware it's possibly because I am my sun sign, I'm a Cancer, and I had never seen this description of a Cancer, but it fits me so closely to a T that I feel like it's the embodiment of my Cancer sign, and it is that um, there is there's a fire within Cancers that are quick to seize on any opportunity without having to put too much mindset into, oh, overthinking, or, should I, shouldn't I, this sort of thing. And I've always been like, I hear something, if it strikes a heart chord, well, hell yeah, we're going to do that. Or, so I always kind of jump in the middle. I find myself kind of in the middle of where I probably shouldn't be, but it always works out, and I find my way to either ends. And
Good.
it's just it's a magical way of living. And now that I understand it, I'm like, well, yeah, why not? Let's live that way. Let's do everything that way. So um my back to the shamanism, how how I was kind of walked into it. I had the Munaiki rights, and then I was also able to, because I did the work involved, to be able to pass them along also. So now I'm able to pass the Munaiki rights to others, and I found a following, people who wanted to do that. So these were little things that kept happening that were they were little notches, they were little rungs on the ladder that were helping me to see my true self, helping me to see that I can be someone else's flashlight, so to speak, in their own shining path. And it was a tremendous help in my self-esteem. So I ironically, I had a niece who was taking a year in Peru. She was doing a work study type of work at the Peruvian university. And so after grad school, she spent a year in Peru and doing this work. And at the tail end of her trip, this poor child wasn't ready to come home yet. And out of the blue, here we go. Out of the blue, she asked me, she's like, Andrea, why don't you come to Peru? We'll go into the jungles. There's retreats here. We can do this. And of course, my answer was, yes, let's do this. Yes.
Why not?
So, and I had never really hadn't traveled on my own, didn't travel on my own to another country, to a foreign country, which is exactly what happened. I flew to Peru. My niece she was there, but she was also there with some other family. And we were supposed to meet up in Iquitos, which is a city in the jungles of Peru. But she was taking a boat to get there, and from Colombia, and I had flown in. So when I got there, I was getting messages from her that her boat was delayed. So I was there for about a week, but I did sign up to do like a 4-day retreat. And so we were only going to see each other for 3 or 4 days. It ended up being like less than 48 hours we saw each other. So here I'm in Peru all by myself, no one, walking these streets, but it was a magical experience. I got to see the sights. I got to soak in the beauty that was around me, and I allowed the fear to just drop and not be afraid of the things that go along with it. People coming up to you, peddling things to you, their wares and things like that. So it was a truly, truly exciting experience. The second part of that trip was a retreat, the Kapatari retreat, and I was going to see a shaman there, and I knew I was ready to walk into my healing self. I was ready to really, okay, I want to offer my services. I want to build a clientele. I want to have a successful way to make money. I don't need to be rich doing this, but I know that what I have to offer has value, and I want to bring that to people and still be able to live my day-to-day life. So I was taking that to the shaman at the Kapatari retreat, and the shaman there was Don Lucho. And I just remember going there and just feeling so grounded and so loved as soon as I walked into the space. Everything was outdoors. There was huts. I had a little wooden cabin shack type of enclosure for my space. There was just everything, outdoors. We were completely immersed in nature. There was a beautiful um, lush greenery in all the jungle, and then there was this beautiful like mud pond, literally. So that all these things were kind of hitting my senses. And I had gone on this retreat with the expectation that I was going to do an ayahuasca ceremony. And ayahuasca is a pretty powerful psychedelic spirit plant, grandmother ayahuasca. And I knew nothing about ayahuasca in 2018. Again, just let me jump in and do this so that I can figure out that I need to do this. So the experience, and I was never afraid. I had never done any sort of psychedelic substance in my entire life, recreationally or otherwise. So I really had no experience. I had nothing to compare it to. I wasn't afraid because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so the night of the ceremony, the Don Lucho was there. There was several auxilios, helpers, and we were all in this circular hut. The name of the hut escapes me at the moment, but we were all there together as one. And so we imbibed this. Yeah, it's kind of a yucky drink, but you imbibe this and then you go lie down, and whatever comes, comes. And I just remember, being told, don't just let it come. If you struggle, it will be more difficult. So I definitely had difficulties. And with ayahuasca, you can have some pretty explosive reactions, and it could be in the form of purging, which comes up either through the mouth or through the other direction. And I literally was the other direction for me. So I ended up having some issues with that. But what I what I know happened from that experience was I saw so much beauty in the natural world. The shamans would come around and they would rattle and drum over you, and they would chant over you. And I remember
Wow.
feeling so much like this person, this is for me. They're only doing this for me. It was like we were in a bubble, and the healing was for me. Now, and that was the truth, but it was also happening for each of the participants in that particular group. And I just remember every time I heard the strike of a drum, I would see these beautiful flashes of like neon, and I would see the music. I would be able to see the strains of the musical notes and the tones. The crickets outside and the birds were just magical. And so those are some of the things that I remember taking from the experience. And I was uh, thoroughly, thoroughly certain that after that experience, that I probably never would have to have that experience again. Um, Fast forward to 2023, and I know there's some more stuff that we'll get into, but I'm now called to um, have the relationship that is required when you have a ceremony like that with either ayahuasca or another Peruvian. I mean, it's all over, but the San Pedro or Wachuma, and the purpose is to get into communion with the spirit of that plant medicine. I was looking at it in 2018 as just, oh, this is a psychedelic that's going to run through my body and hopefully bring me a little closer to my spirituality. But I didn't yet understand that there was the spirit of that plant that could actually speak to me and help me. So um, come home and out of that experience, changed, and really gung ho going forward. But it wasn't until 2021 that I was actually able to start my apprenticeship with Barbara into the Pachakuti Mesa tradition. So the apprenticeship is a year-long experience, and it's a weekend-long retreat about every 3 months. And the first one go through the beginning processes, and each one kind of builds on the next one. And my life changed exponentially um, in that year. And then now I can say now within 2 years, my life is completely different than it was just 2 years ago when I started. It was April 2021 when we started. We had our last gathering April of 2022. And in that time frame, um, I think I mentioned I was working as an insurance salesperson, and I had worked for a family, a local family. I worked for them for 12 years. It was very useful in the time that I needed. It was a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. It gave me the ability to do the things I needed with my children. They were into sports and different things, so it was fairly close to home. But I started to feel a little bit of dissatisfaction that there wasn't really room for growth. I was looking at the fact that I'm a single mom, and just wanting to have a little bit more stability financially. And I wasn't really getting any feedback that might be something that would be happening with the job that I was in. So I found another position, um, similar, close to home, not too much farther. So, and it was, similar hours. So it worked. And what ended up happening was I got hired. The gentleman that hired me, he had a lot of similar he was very much a family man, very much wanting to be there for his community. And so there was a lot of things that aligned that made me taking that position super easy to do. It was more of a lateral move rather than a forward move as far as money, but there was opportunity. And so I was like, all right, yeah. So 6 weeks, actually, I don't even think it was 6 weeks after that. It might have been a month to 6 weeks. He found out that that he was not going to be receiving a contract through the insurance company that he was working, and so he lost his contract, which means I'm brand new to this position and I don't know what I'm doing, and so I'm sort of a fish out of water. And through some just different machinations, I ended up staying with that company through March of the following year. But through different things happening, I had tried to find other positions. Every time I would get an interview, and I would, the money would be so much better, and it looked great on paper, but I wouldn't get called back a second time, or there was this, or the hours were just like kind of not suitable, or whatever it was. And I ended up I ended up being able my position was literally eliminated. My position was eliminated, and I was able to just step out of that realm. And because I had enough work experience or whatever, was able to take 6 months of unemployment and to really kind of decide what I wanted to do with my life. And this was all happening as I was doing the Pachakuti Mesa work. And I feel that a lot of that was happening, that spirit was guiding those, every step of the way, spirit was guiding that me to that position so that I was going to have flexibility to call in what I needed as far as, finding clients, finding my niche, finding what I needed to step fully into myself. Uh, so that was just one faction of the Pachakuti Mesa being like this mind-blowing instance. Another one happened in July of 2021. Barbara had asked us, and I've always been very interested in teaching. Teaching is really near and dear to my heart. I absolutely love teaching. And in fact, at one point considered going back to school to get my degree. I'm glad I didn't do that, but it did cross my mind. So Barbara had mentioned that if you are interested in teaching, there are several criteria that so Don Oscar Miro Caseta is the originator of the Pachakuti Mesa. I do want to make sure and put that in there. Don Oscar Miro Caseta of the Heart of the Healer Shamanic Mystery School. He and his wife, Cindy Miro Caseta, are really the backbones to this push of this planetary beautiful experience. So you, in order to be a teacher, you have to have gone to 2 Don Oscar retreats or taken one or two more of his higher online courses. And money was always a consideration. Like, how do I afford some of this stuff? Because these people also have to get paid. They're doing these services, and so I have to figure this all out. So right around that time, it was July of 2021, we were introduced through our Mesa work to the fact that we have the ability to work with a spirit animal ally on our Mesa. So there's an individual medicine piece on my Mesa that embodies this spirit animal. And my spirit animal, I'm very proud to tell you, is a white tiger, a blue-eyed white tiger, and his name is Aniyani. So, Barbara had said there's retreats coming up in August, so you better get on it. And she was like, light a fire, go, 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 because you don't know. Oscar is in his 70s, and he's a very vital, lot of life force energy, but you know, there comes a time when people do start sort of slowing down or changing their schedules. So she was pretty adamant that, you know, get strike while the iron is hot. So I sat at my mesa, and I did a meditation with Ani. And in this meditation, I remember I was in a field. We were pointing, looking west towards some mountains, and I was just asking, is this the right thing to do? And so what I did was I climbed on the back of Ani, and he's got a slow gait, and we're walking. And I'm still not sure what I'm supposed to, the answer has not come yet. And so I laid back on his back, and he just kind of meandered forward. And I wasn't quite ready to let go yet. So I sat back up in my imaginal mind's eye. I'm sitting back up, and I said, I asked, am I supposed to be going on this retreat? And then I laid back down again, and Ani turned and walked directly into the distance towards the mountains. And at that point in time, I knew that I was just supposed to let go, and I was supposed to go to the mountains. Now, the mountains were the Rocky Mountains. This particular retreat was happening in Colorado, not too far from Denver. And ironically enough, my son had moved to Denver the year before.
Wow.
So it was kind of like, yeah, you got to go. So I did, right? And it was like that day I signed up. I just was like, okay, the money will come. The money will be there. And I cannot worry about that. This is going to happen. And so I've been on 4 retreats now, since then, with Don Oscar, and they're amazing every single time. And every single time, I've never really been concerned on how I'm going to pay for some of these things. It just always works out. And because of course I'm supposed to be there. So the spiritual allies make sure that we have what we need
They
in
sure
those
do.
times.
They
Yeah,
sure
Yeah.
do.
it's
We're
funny
supposed
how
to
they
do.
line everything up like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. We took a local course. The lady had done some shamanic journeying, so that was very interesting for us too. And when we did it, it was
Beautiful.
quite surprising because when we called in our animal, I got a dolphin, and I'm like, a dolphin? Like, what? So I was really surprised because I was expecting, I don't know, something that I, am drawn to in pictures and things
Sure.
like that. But and then yours was, what was yours
The wolf.
again?
I was the wolf.
Wolf.
A
Yeah.
wolf.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that was really neat. And it was an interesting course because then she taught us about, like, we had a stone where we would breathe into the stone, the different things. And yeah, it was just, I love new things. I'm much like you, and I'm a little bit of a planner, but I do just love, like, when these things pop up because we're in a smaller town. It's like, yes,
Yeah.
let's do these things.
Absolutely. Yes. And I must say, I am a planner and an organizer also. So when these things sort of come into my awareness and I know that I'm going to go, it's like, yes, planning mode, like pops right in. So yeah.
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 And I
Totally
think
feel that,
I
sister.
think too, because of my whole life, mom was like that. She'd always jump in, like it was always a yes, like, yes, why not? Let's try it, right? And two, I think, the money does show up when you're passionate about something.
Absolutely. And it's a gift to be able to say yes. I hear right now in a lot of my brothers and sisters, and I feel like part of my experience with how I do live my life is really meant to show people people that I am living my best life right now. I just turned 51 years old and I am like a kid in a candy store. My heart chakra is blown wide open 99.999% of the time. I just want everyone to see how beautiful they shine to me and how beautiful their lives can be. And it just takes you making a decision. It may be difficult and hard part of the way, some of the way, but you get to choose. Like, that's the thing that I have found through working with my Mesa. Like, I am the constructor of my life right now. And I can, I've learned a little bit of the tools and what I need to do as far as offering sacred reciprocity to the unseen allies. If we offer them a little bit of love and a little bit of, breath and prayer, they come back to us with what we want in our hearts by like triple, quadruple, hundredfold. And it doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much to live your highest, most fruitful, your wildest dreams. So I feel like I want to show people that, and I understand people aren't always going to be a fan of my type of energy, and that's okay, and I love them too, because if I'm too much, someone else won't be. But the fact that you realize that maybe my energy is a little bit strong or a little too bright or irritating or whatever, however you might take it, you still see it and recognize that. And yeah, so it's all magic.
What's nice about this too, what you're telling us is that saying, we're always saying to follow your bliss, to get the passion working in your heart, your soul, your mind. And so what you're telling us, what you're saying to all the listeners is your passion, you followed it, and you're feeling everything you need to fulfill your life now. And so to me, it's saying to other people, if you find it, if you think it's your passion, try it out. Because maybe that's exactly what you should be doing right now, right?
Exactly, right? And maybe it is for a hot second, and then the next thing comes up and that's your new passion. But you don't know unless you walk down those paths and you walk and see what it is. Fear is the greatest, the worst thing to keep us in our place. I'll put it that way. Having those copious amounts of fear that is so paralyzing. And I feel that I understand that. I'm definitely the wounded healer, and really walked out of a lot of my wounds. I literally feel like this past this past winter, I closed the book on the first 50 years of my life, and I'm starting book 2. I didn't want to just start a new chapter. I'm starting a new book, and I'm the people that I'm meeting now don't have a clue who I was from the first 50 years. They don't. So all you see is this strength and this shining and this, this love light coming through. And I'm so proud to know that that's what people are seeing, and not necessarily just seeing the broken. I'll talk about the broken all day long, because that's where people that's where people feel the connection or feel that they have, the common ground. I'll talk about it all day long. But I know that poor creature doesn't exist anymore. And I wasn't ever the broken parts that I thought I was. I wasn't the broken parts. Other people gave me their brokenness. And because I'm empathic and because I'm such a giver, I took on those energies as my own and lost myself completely. And now I'm found, and it's just the most profound beauty to be able to share. And I know it because people, I walk down the street and people will want to just stop and say hello, or they'll be, they don't understand what the draw is, but it's my heart space is what they're feeling. So.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, right, in our journeys, those broken parts, they're like little, kind of almost like little crystals that make us up into who we are really at the very base of it, and we need those, and we need to give respect to those things that we endured and got through, because we wouldn't be the people and have the hearts that we have now without having been through those.
That's right. They're lessons that we could share with others, like you just did, to show us that miracles happen and we can change and we can make our life worth living, like, and threefold to what we ever thought, or like you said, like it was something you did not imagine. So, good for you, I say,
Yeah.
because it's a good message out there for all the people that are listening to us and listening to you, what you're doing, what you're trying to teach them. Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah. It's
beautiful.
amazing story, amazing journey that you've been down, and I know you're going to keep going down it. And I've seen some videos with Don Luis, and just very passionate about what his journey is as well, so I can see
Yes,
why
yes.
he'd be
Don
such
Don
a
Oscar.
Don Oscar, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nope, nope.
like,
Yep.
just it's such a, what the draw is to him, because he's just got such a genuine presence about himself.
Absolutely. And that really, that truly is. And being as the spiritual healer that he is, so I'm actually a sanctioned teacher in the Pachakuti Mesa. Like that was one of the I had started to say that was going down that road, but I did get to that aspect, and I've actually started doing my own apprenticeships. And but the teacher process also came with like a lot of self-doubt. It came with a lot of like, it almost felt like it was this intense shakeup of like whatever was left, like whatever like darkness I had left in me. It was like, all right, well, we're going to shake it out of you, because you can't have this if you're going to be able to bring this apprenticeship and awareness to other people. Well, let me tell you, ladies, it literally was like it was some of the darkest days, and I was like, wow, I don't even know if I can do this. And of course I'm going to. The fire that is within me would not allow me to not succeed, gratefully. And I also thank the lineage, the Don Oscar's lineage through the Pachakuti Mesa. There's Don Celso and Don Benito, who he trained from. And it was their trainings that melded together to create what we do know now as the Pachakuti Mesa. And so I call on those, the three of them, and Don Oscar's with us in this realm right now. But he's available, which is amazing. I can communicate with him through my heart space when I need support. And that's also part of what's fabulous about finding a tribe of like-minded souls. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the Pachakuti Mesa tradition. There's many different shamanic worlds. And the thing with the shamanic traditions is, we're going back to our roots. We're going back to our natural origins. We're going back to, being one with nature, and being in tune and understanding. And so all the shamanic traditions, throughout all the worlds, that's what they're dealing with. So there might be some different rituals, or there might be some different, the different ways of doing things. But at the end of the day, we're all honoring Mother Earth. We're all trying to walk softly and kindly and offer heart space, and live in the now to see the beauty of what exists. So to anybody that's listening to your podcast, especially this one here, it doesn't have to be one specific, whatever your heart is drawn to. I would suggest to anybody to at least seek it out, even on a small scale, and then you just sort of you fall into it, and you can't help but fall in love with it.
Yeah, I think
Right,
that's a
right.
great message.
I did.
So
Thank
so
you.
can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, actually, I'm really Facebook centric right now, because my schedule is so crazy. I don't quite have a website yet. I am Reiki with Andrea and Shamanic Healing Arts on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram with that handle.
I do have, if anybody would like to contact me for any distance work, I can be reached through my email address, andrea.reiki11@gmail.com. I'd also like to just put a quick plug in. I'm working with a group of women right now. We're called the Mindfulness Collective, and there's about 17 of us. There's a core group of us, about 8 or 9 of us, and we're going into communities throughout Western New York, and we're offering free of charge mindfulness healing. So you get 3 or 4 practitioners in a 2-hour time span. We've got sound healers, we've got Reiki meditators, meditation artists, we've got people who are doing cacao ceremonies. I do work with my crystals. We have people who are doing creative, intuitive creative work. The list goes beyond. So we're really working to bring awareness to people who maybe would not necessarily step foot in this arena, and offering it free, though we do accept donations, but free because it needs to be accessible to everyone. And this group is going to grow exponentially over the next 6 months and into the next few years. And so we are called the Mindfulness Collective, and you can find us on Facebook with that handle as well.
Sure. Good. Wonderful.
Yeah, that's
Wow,
wonderful. That's a nice way to give back.
it is really nice to give back. It always is nice to give back. It's makes your heart feel real good. Real good. It's been such a pleasure to have you on talking about this and sharing all your moments and where it's led you and how successful you're being now. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And it's been a real, like Mom said, it's been a real pleasure having you on. And you got this such a wonderful inner light about you that I know our followers are going to love it. So, so thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. This has been such a beautiful opportunity. You have no idea. I'm very blessed that you that we were able to put this together. Very blessed.
We feel blessed too. We
Yes.
are blessed too. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you. And yeah, remember to like and share us, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us Facebook, Instagram, and yeah, and we will see you next time.
Keep smiling.